Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Meteorologist Greg Majeski back with you here in the North Georgia Majestic Weather Center here on the Weather Nerds YouTube channel. Hope you guys having a great day out there. A little late getting on. I actually had a new mattress delivered to the house. I've got a bad hip. Kind of messed it up when I was deployed and needed a new mattress. So we finally got it delivered. So we're a little late getting on here today, so I apologize for that. Again, I appreciate everybody checking out us for your weather source. The weather report is a no-nonsense, straightforward weather report. We don't go over the top. We don't scare you to death, and we just give you the straight information here. Our motto is be prepared and not scared. That's what we like to do here. So if you're coming to this broadcast after the live broadcast, if you could please do me the favor, please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you learn on future content. And as always, if you ever got a weather-related question, you can post it down below and give me a thumbs up. It does help with that little thing called the YouTube algorithm. All right, let's go ahead and get into this broadcast for today. Hope everybody's having a good day out there. As we're going to look at our streams yesterday, Bynum, Montana, once again, the same place it was yesterday, was 28 degrees, and Death Valley was 110. So we still got those extremes out there. Still dealing with this flooding rains out here in Oklahoma. We got some clouds that have kind of moved in back across the south. You guys seen the clouds out there across North Georgia today. Should see that sunshine clear up later this afternoon. A gorgeous time up here across the Midwest and heading into the Northeast. Very cool temperatures out there, very fall-like to say the least. Look at some of these temperatures out here. I mean, I see there's a 54 right near Chicago. You got 50 degrees near St. Louis. Got 55 over near Philadelphia. Very, very nice indeed. So some very nice air. You got some 40s up here, 47 up in Madison. So it looks like this unseasonably cool pattern is not going to linger just for this week, but for next week as well. Now, you guys up here in the Northwest are still going to be dealing with the heat. There's some heat advisories and things down there. Of course, we got our flooding rains coming through Oklahoma right now. In fact, I want to go ahead and break that down for you this morning to kind of see some of that rain and some of the rain totals there. So we're going to switch over to Radar Mega here, and we'll take a look at that. There's the rain coming through Oklahoma City into McAllister. And this stuff's been what we call training. The rain's been falling consistently over the same ground here for a while. So I'm going to shift over to the here to the rain totals just to kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. Look at some of these rainfall totals up here to the west of Oklahoma City. Look at that. We got 4.5 inches and almost 5 inches in some of these brighter red areas out here, over 4 inches plus. There's almost 5, and this heavy rain is now coming into Oklahoma City. So it is definitely a flood area. That's why we do have flash flood watches up, which I'm going to show you here in just a second. And some of this heavy rain is going to be pushing off toward the east here in the days ahead. A very active monsoon. Some of this moisture is just what's happening is it's going over that frontal boundary that brought in that unseasonably cool area. Some of that moisture is going over the top of that, so we're getting a little bit of overrunning, and some of that energy is working down that boundary. So thus we'll get the flash flood watches out here. We've got that here at Oklahoma. And look at these pockets out here in the west. I mean, just a very active monsoon. I don't think I've seen one quite this extensive in some time. There's our heat advisories up here across the Pacific Northwest. So you guys still got the heat, I think, for a couple more days, and then it's going to start backing off. We should see things begin to improve in that area here as we go later in the week. So just look out for that. All right, let's go ahead and step into our hurricane season update here. We'll do the tropics real quick. We do have Ferdinand out there, but we're not worried about Ferdinand. It's kind of going on out there. It is so unusually quiet out there in the Atlantic right there, and there's a big reason for it that we're going to see out there. Again, here's Ferdinand moving on out and supposed to become a depression by tomorrow, so we're not going to be worried about that too much. But I want to show you the satellite imagery. I mean, we're kind of getting to late, very, very late to be still seeing this. Look at all this air and dust out here. Look at all this. This is just unreal. All this dust coming in here, and these tropical waves are trying to come in through here. Even the intertropical convergence zone looks like it's being forced a little bit further south than it should be. It should be sitting a little bit further north than that, and it can't do it because of all that dust out there. So definitely a bit of a problem. We're going to continue to watch this tropical wave here. Again, not much of an issue there. And with the old boundaries kind of setting up here across the Gulf of Mexico and off the East Coast, we got to watch for potential development there typically. But as far as the Cape Verde tropical season, man, it's looking dead out there, guys. Not a whole lot to talk about out there for right now. Here at the Pacific side, we do have a little more activity over here. We got a tropical Juliet out here. We got a couple areas of disturbed weather we have to watch out in the Pacific. But that's about it. I mean, it's really about it. There's your systems out there. Got one little disturbance there south of Hawaii. You don't have to worry about that one. That's got like a 40% chance. And then you got these other small areas here. But Juliet is, as we said, it's going to be moving up here out into that cooler water and kind of fizzle on out. You don't have to worry about Juliet as it kind of moves up there and becomes a depression by the time we get toward Thursday and moves up into the Pacific there. All right, so no worries about that. Now, the big story here, I do want to show you this. Oh, one last thing. Let's show you the model data here. This is the eSense model here, and it's just a lack of activity. It looks like toward the end, we start seeing a little bit of these tropical waves maybe start trying to make their way across, but there's just nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing here going out for the next 10 days. This is going to take us straight into the first week in September, and we're not seeing anything. So I just hope we don't pay the price for this later in September right now, but it is pretty quiet out there. And it looks like Labor Day weekend is looking good. Anything coastal plans y'all got going on, don't worry about it. Looking very good indeed. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the thunderstorms. Here's another thing that was for today. We don't have any active severe weather per se. Now, with that being said, you can still get severe thunderstorm warnings out there in the general thunderstorm area, especially with the heat and stuff. But the air is very moist and very buoyant out here in the west. And we've got numerous flood problems we're going to have to watch out for out in these areas. This is your day one outlook here for your Tuesday. And we don't have anything severe for the next 3 days. Here's day two. More of the area they're kind of keeping out. We'll start adding some general thunderstorms across the Midwest here, across Michigan, Wisconsin, back in the plains of Minnesota, and coming out here across the south. Here's your day three going into Thursday. Again, somewhere along the Great Lakes. The southeast starts getting a little wet as some of that moisture starts working its way here going to Thursday and Friday, especially across Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama. I'll show you those rain totals here in a second. So we get general thunderstorm threat, but that leads to the other problem. The problem we're going to have here is going to continue to be a problem is the excessive rainfall out there. That's going to be an issue out there. I should have put the video in this broadcast. Didn't think about it until just now. There was a great dust storm there in Phoenix caused by those thunderstorms. I got flashbacks from when I was in the Middle East. But that possibility is out there. Look at all these pockets out here of the excessive rainfall, 15% chance. So we're talking Oklahoma, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, back up here across Idaho, Nevada, Utah, and even getting into California a little bit in there. So great rains. That area has been under drought conditions for a while. So this is really going to improve the drought conditions. Probably what I'll do this Thursday is I'll make sure I go ahead and work in the drought index here for the West. I want to keep a watchful eye on, see how much that improves from run because this is not only is it thunderstorms, rain, but it is a fairly widespread. So it's definitely going to have a positive impact. The only bad thing is if you get caught in a flash flood, you don't want to be involved with it. So again, the year of the flood continues here across the U.S. Just you guys be careful out there if you see anything like that. All right, so let's go ahead and switch over to the model data here. We're going to be looking at the NAM 6 kilometer here as we look at the next few days here. This takes us out 60 hours, so this is going to take you out from Tuesday going into Thursday. And again, you see the heavy rain, that little swirl going up there into Idaho right there. So we got that going up there. Here's a cluster of storms that are going to work their way across Arkansas and into the south. This is going into Thursday and Friday. So Mississippi, Alabama, maybe getting to Georgia might get some heavy rains with that little cluster of storms that are coming on down to the south. But definitely active monsoon as this moisture flow and this little weak upper level disturbance kind of rise to the north here over this ridge. But still looking at active monsoon. Notice some of this moisture coming into Southern California. That's the Juliet moisture right there, getting caught up and blowing into the Southern California. So again, that's that tropical system we just talked about there. Some of that moisture may work its way into Southern California there a little bit. So again, looking definitely wet, very active out in the west. East, not so much. Northeast looking good. We got this another reinforcing shot of cool air that's going to come down here. You notice that little rain here across the UP of Michigan, coming across Michigan, coming into the northeast Thursday and Friday. That'll clear on about. That's just going to reinforce that cooler air across the northeast. So here's your rainfall totals here. Again, this goes out 60 hours. Obviously, big bullseye here. Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas. You got the heavy rains. Remember, you got that swirl, that upper low kind of moving north. So flooding across Idaho is going to be a bit of a problem in there. And really, anywhere in these pockets we get these thunderstorms, a good 2-inch rains very quickly, very possible. Very, very active monsoon. Again, I was talking about that. I saw all the indications this was coming a few weeks back, and I was waiting for it. And it definitely kicked in big time. One of the more active monsoons I've seen here in quite some time. I got some rain across the Great Lakes here with some of that reinforcing shot of cool air coming down across the northeast going in towards your Thursday afternoon. And we'll take a look out beyond that. This is your temperatures. Got this looping on through. Again, look how much of the east is dealing with heat. Again, that purple is your heat. That's your 90-degree temperatures. We got it out here in the northwest. We'll continue to see the hot temperatures up there, Washington State, the interior California, the southwest, South Texas will be into that. But again, most of the country is going to be dealing with this nice cooler weather here. In fact, I want to take you out. There's your afternoon highs here for today. Pick a location, Ohio, 64 degrees. Let's go near Albany, New York, 64 degrees there. Near St. Louis, 76 degrees. Let's go down near Atlanta, 81 degrees there. So it starts to warm back up here across the high plains, across Montana, seeing the 80s come back up here, but not bad. Still some heat across Dallas. Dallas, I know, hit 98 again yesterday. They're going to start backing off. That's a very sharp dividing line. It's like 66, 93. Look how sharp that dividing line is in here. That's obviously because of the rain cooled air there, but it's a very, very sharp have and have-nots when it comes to temperatures there. Let's go into Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning is going to be one of the cooler mornings here, especially across the southeast. As I go ahead and take this forward here to 7 o'clock in the morning, look at all this green. Wow, very nice. We got 50s here across North Georgia, 55 degrees there. Louisville, Kentucky, 48 degrees there. You got 51, 54 degrees near Philadelphia. Albany, New York, looking at 55 degrees. How about near Detroit? You're looking at 45 degrees for the interior, a little bit warmer along the coast, but a very, very nice cool air mass. Very warm and mild across the Pacific Northwest, 75 degrees for overnight lows. This is terrible. The Intermountain region, not looking too bad. A little cool there with height and rain, obviously, there. Let's go to your Wednesday afternoon highs. Let's check that out real quick. We'll go take that out forward here to your 5 o'clock. Again, a lot of the east looking pretty good. Heat down here in Texas, the southwest, interior, and I'm sorry, you guys up Washington State, still looking some 90s up there and upper 80s. So it looks like warm weather up here continues, but below normal here across a big portion of the country here going into your Wednesday afternoon. Thursday morning, let's go check that one out real quick. As you can still see, the cool air across the east and the Midwest looking pretty good there. Not bad across the south. The interior sections there cool as well, and not quite as mild up there in the Pacific Northwest. I think that heat starts to back off heading into Thursday. Still looking at some 80s. This is up till 2 o'clock, so it may get close to 90 degrees, but we'll start backing that off across the Pacific Northwest as we go into this upcoming weekend. So some relief's coming. Still hot across Texas, but again, big part of the country, just see the summer has been turned off right now. And that looks like that's going to linger a little bit. And I'll show you the climate outlook here to kind of illustrate this. Now, we're looking at the American GFS model, and a couple things I want to point out. I mentioned this again yesterday. I'm going to mention it again today. You can clearly see the transition that we're starting to go over, where the jet stream is going to get a little more active here, especially as we go into September. As we can see, you see these little dips here coming down here going into September. You see that active flow there, and look, there's one. Here comes another one coming on down in here again. So the pattern's becoming much more progressive. You see the jet stream kind of doing a little more waverly activity. So that's very common as we go into the fall season. Now, I will say this is a little bit early to be seeing this. I would have been thinking this more toward the end of September, October, but definitely see we're making a little bit of transition there with the seasonal change. And it looks like this kind of pattern, at least the GFS is hitting on this, and the European as well, that we're going to keep it kind of cool here, at least going into the first week of September. And I think that's going to linger into the middle of the month. Like I said, I disagreed with what with the Climate Prediction Center when they put out their monthly out for September for back on the 21st. They kept it above normal for a lot of the country. I was like, I don't know about that, guys. And because it's just some indications, I was looking at the NAO and everything else, it looked like we're going to stay a little bit active. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about our forecast here. Again, we're going to keep it unsettled here across the south. Okay, we got some southern rains here. The Labor Day weekend is not a washout per se. This is just going to be some clouds, sunshine. Temperatures will be down a little bit. There's that cluster of rain kind of coming in here toward Thursday and Friday. You get a little bit of activity here across the middle of the country, the plains, and of course the moisture monsoon continues out in the west. You still see the thunderstorms here popping up day to day here across the west. We do have some troughiness. It's going to beat down that ridging here across the northwest. Here's our tropical system, by the way. You see that moisture kind of working its way into Southern California there. And this trough across, you see that rain there across the northwest, that'll beat back that heat going into Labor Day weekend. So you guys in Washington State, get some relief's coming. The Northeast is going to stay cool. The Midwest is going to stay cool and a little unsettled across the south. The heat's going to stay into Texas and Florida like we saw, although Florida's going to be seeing some decent rains here over the next 7 days, especially that old boundary kind of sitting up down there. All right, so let's look at your rainfall totals here. GFS next 7 days. Again, we're going to watch some of this heavier rain coming out of the plains here across Colorado and coming into Mississippi, maybe getting into Alabama, Tennessee. I don't know if it'll get that far north or not. We'll have to watch. It all depends on where that boundary kind of sets up, where that cluster of storms goes. It's going to be kind of a day-to-day type thing. So as we get closer to Thursday and Friday, we'll see where that cluster kind of lines up and where it ends up. But wherever it goes, regardless, there's going to be some pretty heavy rains with it. So again, you guys here across the south central United States and heading into the southeast need to watch for some pockets of some heavy rains as we go to later in the week. All right, and then as that boundary stalls across the south, I think it'll be a little more scattered. All right, so here's our temperature regime. Let's go beyond Thursday. I'm going to take you right in through Labor Day itself, okay? So you can kind of, for planning purposes here, you get an idea of what you can expect. So let's go into your Thursday afternoon highs again. Hot in Texas. We're back in the hundreds again across Dallas. I know Dallas is getting a bit of, look at these temperatures with rain, cool temperature here on Thursday. 60s here across Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi. Just really cool there. Cool across the Northeast. We're warming up across the plains, at least for right now. See a lot of upper 80s in here, even some 90s into Nebraska. Some heat out there and across the Southwest. Let's take this into your Friday morning. There we go. And again, you can see how cool it is going to remain there across the Great Lakes, Northeast, even the South. Still looking good. The interior, West Coast starts to cool off. So as we get toward Friday, you guys hold on. We're going to beat that heat back here a little bit so we can get rid of these extremes as we're going from the extreme heat to the cool temperatures there. Let's go to your Friday afternoon. There we go. Still look a lot of 70s here across the Midwest, the Northeast, and the 60s. Warming up briefly here across the South on Friday. Briefly, I think that'll be a brief warm up there. But look at all this rain cooled air in here. Look at that's that rain pocket where it's setting up here across the South going into Friday. Going into Saturday morning, still looking at the cool Northeast, Midwest. That ain't gonna change, guys. That's gonna be there for a while. Good out here in the West, and again, we've beaten down the heat there a little bit in the West, except Eastern and Washington, still a bit on the warm side. All right, let's go look at your Friday afternoon or Saturday afternoon. Again, not bad. Again, let's go into Labor Day weekend. So a little unsettled along the beaches across the Southeast, the Carolina coast looking a little bit rough there. Cool in the Northeast, cooling across the Midwest. Still dealing with some heat up there across Washington State. Again, it would look like it was going to be toward Monday. We're going to beat that back a little bit. All right, so let's take this forward into Sunday afternoon. We'll do work on the afternoon highs from here on out. So again, hot in the high plains, cool across the East Coast, the Midwest, hot in Texas, hot across the Southwest, and there we go. We finally break the heat there on Sunday across Washington State and Idaho. So we got to start to beat that down a little bit. Interior California looks pretty hot in the 100-degree temperatures there. Let's go into your Labor Day itself. All right, Labor Day itself. There we go. We got 50s and 60s across Washington State. The high mountains start to cool off into the 40s here in Colorado. Cool here across the east, but not as cool as it has been. Not as much grain on that map going into Labor Day itself. And then finally, Labor Day afternoon. Here's your highs Labor Day afternoon. Not bad. I mean, we got 80s here across Kentucky. It's a little hot up in the plains. We're a little hot here. Temperatures above normal here in the middle of the country. And hot across the south. Interior sections of California look like they're going to bake. So the heat that's up there across the Northwest is going to shift back down to the south here. So interior California will get very hot here as we go toward your Monday. So let's look at your climate outlook. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. Take a look at that. Again, you can see that below normal temperature is going to stay in there going in. This goes from the 31st through the 4th. So a big part of the country looking below normal temperatures. And as we go beyond that, 8th to the 14th, still sitting there. Now we do warm up across the Northeast. The West stays on the warm side here. We're warm back out here. We're cool out here, obviously. And we're warm up here in the Pacific Northwest. A little bit hot down there along the Gulf Coast. So that looks like that'll continue. Again, this goes out from the 2nd through the 8th. So we're almost a third of the way into September. And look how much the country is dealing with below normal temperatures. Precipitation-wise, except for the Northeast, obviously, because that cool air coming in there, we got it's going to be a bit wet here across a big portion of the country going into that first week in September. And as we go through the 8th to the 14th, it looks like that's going to continue. Still looking at some chances of above normal precipitation for a big part of the country. Thus, I think that adds to obviously the realm of keeping the temperatures down because we got a little more widespread precipitation taking place out there heading in that first week of September. So again, not looking bad across the country. At least you don't have any real active severe weather. The tropics are relatively quiet right now. Again, I just hope we don't get into a situation where somebody flips the switch out there and we deal with some active tropics out there. But right now, looking pretty good. Who we got out there? We got Rita out there this morning. Good morning, Rita. Ryan, good to see you there, Ryan. And we got Captain Skywalker out there, aka good to see you there as well here for this morning. Again, appreciate you guys checking us out. And unfortunately, when we get into a situation like we got right now, like the viewership was down quite a bit yesterday, and that's to be expected because there's no really active weather going on. And because I don't like to play the game of hyping things to death, I will pay the price for that. But that's okay. I'd rather pay the price, be legitimate, instead of saying, this is unprecedented. We're all going to die. I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry. So I will say this much. You guys in the Northwest got to deal with the heat. The flooding issues, my biggest concern across the West and the interior sections there, especially Oklahoma. That flooding is my main watch out for the rest of this week. Pockets of that's going to continue. All right, that's y'all's update for today. Again, I appreciate you guys checking us out. Y'all be good, stay safe, and we'll see you on tomorrow's edition, Hope Day edition on Wednesday. We'll see if things change much out there. You guys take it easy, and we'll talk to y'all tomorrow.